All right, I'm live and in concert. Welcome again, ladies and gentlemen, to my wonderful show. Oh, that's cool. Share the screen. Awesome. A little bit too much there. All right, so tonight we're going to try to answer a very hard question. Nobody wants to answer. Not really give a shit if they want to answer it or not, but we're going to go for it. So, people don't like this. They get upset when I say it, but it's just the reality of it is. Steve McNally started this all in 1969, 68, 67. And I've talked to him about it a few times. People go, oh my gosh, Bryan's racist. I don't really give a shit what you think. Right? I just happen to know the guy, and I happen to know that he started it. So everybody out there doing their thing now, whether they like him or not, needs to understand they wouldn't be doing it. All right, how you doing? If you hadn't started it. Be that as it may, we're sitting here in 2024, and I have spent almost 20 years working on this stuff. I've written 60 books. I've taken a good hard look at myself. I've tried to do better. I've fallen on my face. I've got up. I've tried again. And continue to try to help other people move forward along the same way. And then that, because I'm of a firm belief that anything that we do in this has got to be something that helps another person move forward, right? And as I've always said, and I've been quoted on saying this many times, nothing positive can be built on hate, right? Period. You're not going to build anything positive on hate. And I don't care, and that goes for the left or the right, which both sides really don't like that I say that. But here's why. I want you to take a good, long, hard think about everything that we're doing here. We all that are in here, that are paying attention to this, that have done the reading, that have done the study, that have survived some very tough times, have found a way of living that provides us positive purpose, guidance, and direction, right? So we've got a path, we've got a structure that allows us to move forward. And I don't really care how anybody does their spirituality. I really don't. If that makes you happy and you want to go for it, go for it. Who am I to take? I think it might be considered a great sin to steal another man's faith, no matter how you might do it. Now, I do agree. Yeah, there's some people out there following some fairly hedonistic ideas that would not be suitable for my lifestyle, would not be good for me to live, partake in, would not be healthy for me to follow that path. But that's just the thing. It's not my path. But what does concern me, what does make me wonder, and I had a friend tell me this a long time ago. He said, if we don't figure out how to make this something that works for the people that show up here to have them lead better lives, it'll die in the backyards where the barbecues were held. It'll die in it'll die in those things that with the friends and people that have come together, that have found that common bond, that have found that life preserver in this life and this feeling of spirituality, this way that we want to live. When is the last time you have heard of anybody making a significant spiritual contribution for the greater whole, all of us, by following this path? I'll wait. There are hundreds and thousands. There are probably millions of practitioners of this spirituality at this point. And none of us can agree. And perhaps that's the way it was meant to be, so it would always constantly be evolving and developing and finding different and new paths. But we also live in that time of the world where individuals like Herman were the most valuable members of the Germanic community as they fought the Roman Empire. Today, we stand against vague and nebulous ideas of individuals that we've let determine the quality of our comfort and the quality of our lives are in the hands of individuals that don't have our best interests at heart. Our inability to create those ideas, and believe me, I get it. I know that this sounds, we're trying to create dogma. Who are you, the Ace of Pope? I've heard it all before. I'm not trying to create dogma. I'm not trying to be the ace pope. I'm simply asking a question. When you try to get a group of individuals to believe in a certain way, if you think about the Baptists, you got some Baptists that are very liberal and go vote for Biden. You got some Baptists that are extremely conservative. They are make America great again, 110%. Gun toting, right? Down south, good old boys. Same thing in the Catholic Church. Our political hot button interests have broken down to those things that might interfere with our convenience the most. I.e., we're not going to have as much money in our pocket if this individual gets elected. The Baptist Church, everybody in there is a different person, but they believe in a certain way. They believe that they're right, and they put their money where their mouth is, and they try to live it. Now, of course, when you're talking about Christianity, you're talking about a group of individuals that they can do whatever they want to, and then on Sunday go to church and it'll all be good. We don't live that way. Our obligation is to be honest and to do the right thing the first time, every time. Now, that is not as easy as it sounds. But actually, it is easy. But there's some hard parts to it. There's some real hard parts to it, especially when you get down on your luck. There's nobody coming to save you. There's going to be plenty of reminders of what you have inside you to get through what you're dealing with. But no one's going to do it for you. To a degree. There's a lot of stories of God's intervening in the affairs of men, helping their lives. But I think what's been on my mind lately is, why have we not been able to contribute to the greater good of our countries, our communities, or hell, even each other? There's 100,000 turkey necks living in mom's basement that would just as soon tie me up to a stake and burn me than do anything that might require them to get up and get out of mom's basement and go take care of themselves. So we can't agree on that principle because they obviously are more educated with the heathen worldview because they live in mom's basement. When I first saw the 9 Noble Virtues, I had lived much of my life with an idea of leadership. The 11 principles of leadership that I learned in the military that carried me through the business world that allowed me to be successful. One of the most important things that allowed me to make the money that I made in the free world after I got out of the Army was sticking to these principles, these 11 principles of leadership, this being a leader to myself. And then when I came into this spirituality at 38, I come across the 9 Noble Virtues, principles, right? Ideas that should guide everybody. And yet they seem to cause more dissension than anything else. The 11 principles of leadership are real simple. Know yourself and seek self-improvement. Right off the bat, number 1. You're never done growing as a leader. You'll never stop growing. And I think that applies very much to our spirituality. I think we are never done growing. The crazy thing about all of the lore is that when you take a look at it and you read it, and then a year later you read it again, you realize, holy shit, that means this too. But we've got these forces at work against it that have left us be adrift. Oh, no, you can't say that because you might be racist. Oh, no, you can't say that because you might be too liberal. You might be too left-leaning. I've said it many times. I did an interview with Freya Aswin once, and she is on that. She's on the Patreon in the videos. Still a very powerful individual. And a lot of people don't agree with her, but she's very much middle of the road. She told me, she said, Bryan, it all comes from the same well. And that rocked my world. Because at that time, I was very much what you would call folkish. I was dyed in the wool, straight up, hardcore, AFA, Gothies, folk builder, the whole 9 yards. And she said, Bryan, it all comes from the same well. That required me to grow, not to sacrifice my principles, but to develop an understanding that there are other things that I need to learn to be truly of benefit to the individuals that I want to spend time with. No, I just got to stick. The rest of the principles of leadership are pretty simple. Be technically and tactically proficient. It means know your stuff. Seek responsibility and take responsibility for your actions. Be accountable. I think that is one of the biggest failures that we have in our spirituality. Is people being accountable. I have a hard time with it. You know why? Because I knew better. And I did it anyway. And it caused people to hurt. That's a shame on me, isn't it? Not anybody else. I have to be accountable for that. I have to work to make up for that. I have to know myself and seek self-improvement and keep growing as a leader for myself and for others. I mean, let's face it, when we let individuals down that love us, we have failed. And now we got to grow and develop. And once again, we're in a boat where, all right, I know there's an answer in this lore, and I guarantee you, I have yet to come across a problem in life and being a counselor and helping people through the tough times that I can't look in that poetic edda or that prose edda and find a solution, find something that tells me, hey, I can help this person get through this if they'll look at it. Let's take a look at it like this. And that requires me to make sound and timely decisions, be wise, but be decisive. Yes, and stick to it, stick to my guns. And then when you start having a little bit of success, you know what happens? Invariably, there'll be some individual in a group over here that's not doing quite as well as he feels he needs to do, who's not willing to know himself and seek self-improvement or be technically and tactically proficient or seek responsibility or make a sound and timely decision. Instead, the slander begins and we begin to cut each other's throats because, well, I'm going to be more right than them. And I can do this on social media and know this. And then in the midst of all that, we're supposed to know our people and look out for their well-being. When did we forget that? When did we forget that the foremost thing, if you've been gifted with any kind of insight with regards to their spirituality, we need to know our people and look out for their well-being. Now, I'm not saying who your people are supposed to be, so don't take it that way. I don't care who your friends are. But our responsibility as individuals that have taken a step into this wild blue yonder of spirituality is to know these people that stand around us and look out for their well-being. That's a hell of a thing to consider. Trouble is, sometimes it kind of branches off into the messianic overtones of, I know the way, I have found the spirituality that will save the day. It may not necessarily be that way, where the wisdom comes in. But we got to keep our people informed. No team ever failed because of too much communication. Being able to talk with an individual. Every time I talk with somebody, I'm learning something special. Yes, it has been lost. The lack of accountability and chaos in this society, perhaps that's why we're in the boat we're in, because we're the individuals that are going to be the foremost to step up, pull our boots on, step up, say, all right, I'll take the ass chewing or the ass whipping, and we'll keep moving forward. Or I sit here and say, well, maybe I was wrong on that. Yeah, I'm a procrastinator too, and I lose interest quickly. Yeah, I have to work on that every day because it's not perfect, right? It ain't perfect, so I need to back off of it a minute. But we can't always do that. But that's part of the deal. Ensure the task is understood, supervised, and accomplished. We got to set clear expectations, goals, and then coach and hold people accountable. The very beginning of the Poetic Edda, I've said it every time I turn around. The two individuals in the Gylfaginning and the Skullcarpamal are both seeking to sneak their way into Asgard. They're not coming as men willing to learn. One comes by the crooked way of the snake. The other one, they both come disguised, thinking they're going to sneak in there and get some information without changing who they have to be. they'll sneak in that way. So the thing is as we sneak up upon that spiritual awakening, camouflage to the world, we kind of, well, I have a secret understanding, and I really understand how Loki operates, and I get this, and I understand that this is an aspect of Frey and Frigga, and all this other horse shit, right? We need to realize that all of that kind of nonsense that we see going on, that's an individual trying to sneak their way in kind of the spiritual awakening that I assure you this way of life guarantees. Okay? But they still get there, don't they? But everybody knows they get bamboozled, they get hoodwinked, they get all the things going on in both of the great halls are more than they can begin to understand. All right. That's where they start becoming informed. Right? Bragi starts telling them all the tales, all the great tales. And the uninspired and the uninitiated continually get them wrong. Hopefully someday they don't have to go through the kind of things that a lot of us have had to go through to figure out, oh, shit, that's what that means. We train our people as a team. We work together. We stick together. We stand up for each other. But we're all trying to work in the same thing. I have the hardest time with tribe. You know, I know that tribe is important. I understand that it's a valuable, powerful aspect, but I have yet to see one form together. Oh, we're going to get a bunch of land, and we're going to get together, and we're going to have a Hoff, and we'll be a happy-go-lucky heathen community from here on out. So the first thing is, who's going to own the land? The second thing is who are you going to do with the money? I've seen more people screw more people out of money in this spirituality than anywhere else. It's as worse as a church. Yep, all we have to do is do the right thing, right? So that's right. We live in our deeds. So this is what I'm going over, what our deeds should look like. So when we train our people as a team, when we go to build tribe, I've seen people that come on this path, they buy a hammer, they read a book somewhere that tells the same story, probably not one of mine, which it would be a mistake. And then they're going to get a bunch of other guys together, and they're going to drink, and they're going to have a good time, and they're going to have cookouts, and they're all heathen, they're all pagan, and they're all sitting together and in the backyard, and they're having a barbecue and a bloat, and they're doing all these wonderful things, and they're doing it as they think they need to do it because they aren't willing to change anything about themselves. And then all of a sudden money gets involved, and then who owns the land? And then, well, that person didn't do what I thought they should do. And people didn't want to be direct, and people wanted to come by the way of the snake. And next thing you know, some husband's trying to fuck somebody's wife, or some wife's fucking with somebody's husband, and it all goes to hell in a handbasket, or they turn out to be swingers, and all kinds of weird shit starts showing up. And now nobody wants to deal with that. You know how many times I've seen that nonsense show up? It has destroyed this. It has kept us adrift for so long because we can't agree on a set of principles. And it's a difficult thing. The principles of leadership, when I got done with, so then we employ our team in accordance with its strengths and capabilities. Well, what would that look like if we built a community that employed itself in accordance with its strengths and capabilities? Hell yeah, it absolutely is. All right, I see you, man. We have, if we were to build a community or that, and I'm not saying I'm going to do it. I know the headache that comes with that shit. But if a group of people could stick by each other through thick and thin, because they all know that every one of them is living up to them 11 principles of leadership and using them as the 9 noble virtues lay out for us, right? Fidelity, courage, hospitality, industriousness, discipline, perseverance, self-reliance, honor, and truth. Honor isn't a funny one because you don't give yourself honor. You don't graduate and say, well, I graduated with honors. The university gives you the honors to go with that because you earned it, you worked, and you got it, right? But all that goes together. Shit. But the first and foremost thing, that whole thing the AFA had with the food drives, that was my idea, right? I'm the one that set that up for them. I built a thing called Nana's Hearth a long time ago because I became aware that there were a lot of people struggling that weren't making it. We had people coming in the Asatru that were still on fucking around with that glass dick, right? Smoking that meth, still were drunks, just right out of prison, trying to get their families together, living in their cars, calling themselves heathen, and looking like that. And nobody said, hey, here's a little bit to help you out. So I built Nana's Hearth. Started carrying it to people, started trying to take care of people. If what we're doing isn't something that benefits the people around us, if what we're doing doesn't give us that impression of when we walk down the street, somebody says, you know what, I want some of what that guy's working in my life. Holy shit, what are we doing? What are we doing? See, here's the deal. The world is in such a state of chaos. And all of a sudden, during that societal upheaval and revolution of the 60s, one of the things that came out of that, there were 5 individuals that started this in different regions of the world at the same time without international phone calls, without the internet, without any of that other nonsense. It started in Australia with the two brothers, I believe. Started with Elsa, started with Bjorn, started with Steve. All of them at the same time kicking off these same ideas. These ideas, these old ideas and old spiritual beings and old gods. Think about what that really means. That's the kind of shit you hear about in the tales that we read. That's the kind of stuff that all of a sudden these gods have once again become interested in the affairs of men because shit's going off the rails. Now here we are 50 years later, 55 years later, almost 60 years. And the world's continuing to change. And there's a group of us that are saying, hey, I'm wanting to learn how to take care of myself a little bit more. And in doing so, be a benefit to my family, friends, and community around me. That's it. That's exactly right. Somewhere along the way, I've been waiting for a long time to see individuals start. I see individuals start up, and then I immediately see the kind of things that cause dissension and problems, the cliquishness of it. If an individual is living by these principles, it is very apparent right off the bat. If they're off in la la land with a bunch of other stuff, okay. Jeremy's like, no, he wants it out there. There's a good thing to be had here. And when we begin to, if we just sit here and contemplate for just a second that something so powerful is happening on a spiritual level that all of a sudden these gods are once again actively a part of a spiritual tradition in the world, we should be dumbfounded and awestruck at the possibilities of what we could do. We should on the daily be grateful that all of a sudden, for a little while, Odin had use of me. For a little while, I was capable of helping others. Daily grateful that I made it through that darkest part of my life. And I figured out that I do have the keys to the universe here with me. And it comes from my ancestors. Right? I mean, there's a reason I keep that stuff on the wall. That is my grandmother and grandfather's original cattle brand. Right? That all of that stuff means something to me. A daily reminder when I walk out that front door, I look over and I see that as I turn the light out. Right? I look over and I see the strength and power of my ancestors and then realize, all right, I'm going to walk down these steps and I'm going to go out here and give it hell. And I do my best with it every day. Some days are better than others. Some days I'm tired. I am 53. I should be allowed to take a nap, and I do. But for the most part, my mind is always thinking. It's like that question we had not long ago on TikTok. How often do you think about the Roman Empire on the daily? Well, shit, yeah, me too. I think about how it fell, and I look at the comparisons now, and I see the gods and the deities that were involved and the changes in the spiritual tradition and how things became so much different than they were in the time of Caesar to the time of Constantine. That ain't no joke. That is no joke, man. Cheeseburgers, black screens, and dollar signs. I hate the dollar sign thing. But it works best in the medium it was designed for, and that's to spend. I know some individuals that are completely off grid. They don't want shit from this community. Right? They take care of their family and they're they're homeschooling their children. They're doing all these things and separate and getting out there and getting it. Justin I respect the shit out of that man because he saw a path that he wanted to take in life and he doubled down. I have never seen an individual that's got that much drive, competitive spirit, and desire to achieve freedom for himself. And he does it by teaching others how to be free. Yeah, it's true. It's overwhelming if you think about it. I think the cheeseburgers, the black screens, the dollar signs, it's overwhelming. We got people working right now, they're making $15 an hour, and I know damn well they're not making it much paycheck to paycheck. They're not making it. I have been thoroughly blessed by following this path in life. I have been thoroughly blessed by trying to live those principles. And I'll be the first to tell you, yes, I have fallen upon my face and had to get back up and try it again more than once in life. Right? But each time was a lesson. Each time was something to learn. What principle is there in that I can use to share with other individuals to get up and try again? My boys tell me every day, they tell each other, what does Dad always say? Put one foot in front of the other and keep going. I learned that road marching in the Army. One foot in front of the other. And pretty soon, you got 25 miles done in under 6 hours wearing full gear. The same thing with our spirituality. I don't think we can afford to be slacking at this time. I see that says homesteading and outdoor adventures. That is right where it's at. I made the radical decision a couple years ago to move up here, about 2 hours south of the Canadian border, northern Minnesota. Because quite frankly, the great metropolitan areas terrify me. You let the food stamps not come in 1 month, and those places will tear themselves apart. And I would just soon not have to go to prison protecting my daughter, or the woman I love, or her children. There's opportunity out here in these woods, in this remote area. There you go. Sourdough's worth it, man. I love that shit. But I guess back to my original point, the hard question is, how come we haven't produced any kind of resounding spiritual truth to help other individuals achieve the freedom that I don't think many of them even understand they need? Where is that individual that puts forth the question that helps a person want to try to be better? Well, they'll only listen to them as long as they have the same beliefs, because then they're okay. They're not. That kind of dangerous stuff is why the communists spent so much time killing their neighbors. Oh, you have a cow and a pasture? You must be part of the wealthy elite. We're going to take your cow, we're going to take your pasture, and we're going to kill you. But we're not going to shoot you. We're going to let you dig your own grave, and they're going to bury you alive to save on ammunition. If you haven't read the Gulag Archipelago, I highly suggest you do it. Same thing happened in World War II. My great grandfather and grandmother had a farm, a small farmstead on the Arkansas River by Tulsa, Oklahoma. And FDR decided that people needed to be dependent on the government for such things. Well, they had 5 pigs, 5 hogs, and the government agents came while Harvey was at work, and they went over there was a berm there that separated the Arkansas River so it wouldn't flood the community, and went over the berm there where they kept the hogs and killed all 5 of them. Didn't take the meat, just left them there to die. FDR, thank you for that fucking on my family. So now their ability to be independent and successful was just taken from the government by the government. Yeah. we're fast approaching that same kind of stuff. And I contend that the wherewithal to stand up against that kind of nonsense is going to be resolute, is going to be tied to our ability to be resolute with regards to our spiritual traditions. You can see it in any African American church. Take a look at them. You let the preacher get fired up and get to talking about what they talk about, and it's on. They will be in the street and nobody will say a word. Our spiritual tradition came out of the 60s and that spiritual revolution and that time of hedonism, and in that time of decadence, a solid spiritual practice of honor and integrity and courage and industriousness was born. Imagine that. And that's truly something to imagine. What an amazing thing that showed up. Maybe they were tripping balls and they read Conan. I don't know. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that's absolutely right. Those in power trying to make more money. Well, what do we do down here? We make money. But if you want to save the rainforest, if you want to change the world, you got to have a shekel. I know that's going to piss everybody off, but that's the reality of it. It takes money to do things that we need to do. I, for one, have always felt that the strength of my spirituality would be enough to carry me forward no matter the circumstances. I know what I did in the Army, and I know what carried me through then. I know what allowed me to do the difficult things, the challenging things, the things that other people read about in books. I know, I guess the best thing is there's no atheists in foxholes. At any rate, let's consider this. Let's consider what is the great spiritual truths that this spirituality offers. In a time of need, it united all the tribes of Germania. In a time of need, it protected those borders against Roman occupation. And it worked until the last crusades. See, the power of the faith went to work there and changed the dynamics of that entire continent. When they made our afterlife a terrifying place. And then submitted a God to us that he's conquered death for all. Give me a fucking break. The comparisons are all there. And I firmly believe that it's been on my mind all day long. And I'm not sure what's going to come out of it. Might be another best-selling book, but I have a feeling that something grand is coming. Because we are facing times where our reliance upon our faith will be the thing that allows us to plow one more row. Right? That kind of shit. To walk 10 more miles to get to your partner's house, to get to your tribe, to get to your community. I don't know. Maybe it's just my own mindset. Maybe these are the kind of times where you get in a thought process, and that usually when I get in these kind of thought processes that are very dismal and not very bright and not very encouraging, and I want to become angry about it, I begin to feel, well, maybe you're not thinking about it right. Okay. Why not? That is something that I have seen be one of the recipes for failure. Is unifying a group of individuals not on spiritual principle, but on the idea of being a victim, but in the idea of being the underdog. Selling a spirituality on the idea that, well, you're really a victim, you just don't know it. It works for a time. It always works for a time. It always works for a time until the amount of violence involved in maintaining that thought process becomes so egregious to the very nature of humanity that we may not lack the guts for it. Or if we do, then we become the villains. But by the same token, if we are fighting for our lives, I would just soon have Frey and Balder and Thor and Tyr and those great gods of war, power, and the very forces of nature at my back. What would happen if I kept that same mindset to solving the problems that challenge me on the daily basis? I saw it today. Make a list of the 10 things that would most change your life or goals. Now take the one that would have the greatest impact on your life in 24 hours and pick that one. Then make a checklist of 10 things you need to do to make that a reality and follow that checklist. See, those formulas for that kind of nonsense are out there all the time. But the formulas that keep us going, the formulas that allow us to get up in the morning and work hard, the formulas that allow us to go to the gym when we don't feel like going to the gym, that tell us to go train when we don't feel like going to train, that have us sit down and meditate when we don't fucking feel like meditating, that have us do those kind of things that challenge our very, that you know what, I'm tired, I don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like, and we begin to negotiate with our own thought process. It is faith and spirituality and discipline that get us through those times. Those are the times. Our ability to enact those ideas are the ones that determine whether or not we can come up with a world-changing perception that might be of a benefit to many. A lot of good commentary on here tonight on that chat. I appreciate that. Man, that's awesome. I am done. I got a Gothy call here in just a minute on Patreon. I'll get that uploaded just momentarily. And tomorrow is Monday, and we all got life to live. So whatever it is you're going to be doing, go out there and grab it by the nose and whip its ass. Do-do-do. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I appreciate you joining me in on Sunday night. I know everybody's got things to do, but life is good. Go enjoy it. Or no, you know what? Life is better when you build it. I think that's what we're going to say from now on. Life is better when we build it. Fuck yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Y'all have a good night.